They'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe.
Hope is attacking. We're outnumbered. Go get the new members of the G.I. Joe team. Here's Torpedo and Shrimp.
The G.I. Joe personnel carrier holds 28 Joe team members, each sold separately from Hasbro.
Hey, this is Mike from Junkyard Crafts and Builds, and in this video we're going to go through an opening and impressions of the G.I. Joe Classified Series Edward Torpedo Leialoha. Now this is part of the new wave. I know we've seen a lot of it already in the past month or so because of people overseas getting the Hasbro figures much earlier than us here in the United States. That's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and just go through this right now. We have this new windowless package that has this really cool image of the figure itself, and you see here a bunch of other Easter eggs from the appearances that Torpedo had in the original cartoon. We also have a snapshot of all the accessories that come with him, and then we have this really cool image. Here's the side of the box with a QR code. He is number 73 in the line. On the other side, again, we have a close-up of that drawing that was on the front, and on the back of the box we have this render of Torpedo. He is 6 inches tall. Again, another snapshot of the accessories and some other details that we'll see on the figure. So with that being said, let's get Torpedo out of this box. And here we have Edward out of his packaging, and we have his accessories in front of him, which we're going to go through right now, starting from the left with his dive knife. So as you can see, it is molded in red plastic with black paint on the blade, decently sculpted. I do have a little bit of a paint nick right here that I'll fix, but you know, it's a soft pliable PVC plastic, and that will go into his sheath on his leg here. Technically you could say both the sheath and this gear pack are accessories, but I don't feel like doing that, so we're not going to do it. Anyway, so now we're going to go into, we'll do this as a combination. We have his air respirator rebreather pack. Again, nicely sculpted in a simple but effective manner. Got his air bladder and his ballast bladder here on this gray, and then the rebreather apparatus here on the back. To go along with that, we have his rebreather mask. It is a soft pliable plastic that has 2 pins that are going to go into these holes on either side of the backpack. So let's go ahead and get him geared up with that. There you go. It's a nice slim package that goes along his back there. And for the rebreather, I rather put it on his face first and move it in position, and then I put the hoses into his backpack on the other side as such. Next we have his dive fins, and they are really nicely painted. This nice matching maroon color. These are also soft pliable plastic, which is great, and they fit right into his boots, or his feet fit right into it, excuse me. Relatively easy, and then you just bend the little back strap up and over. We'll do that again. So we bend it back, up and over, and they stay on really, really well. So they're nicely tolerant, and they give him a little more stability to stand. So now we have close quarters combat and we have his dive fins on and everything. Let's go through his weapons. So he comes with an homage to the vintage toy line with a harpoon gun. Unfortunately, Hasbro QC hit me again, and this was really, really bent. I did heat it up and the figure to kind of straighten it out, so it's much better than what it was. But as you can see, it's black PVC plastic with this little bit of like a greenish yellow line that goes around his wrist, and then the harpoon is just painted silver. But that just slides over his wrist, and both his hands. There's his harpoon gun now in his hand. I was having a bit of an issue with his thumb and forefinger not wanting to spread open wide enough, but it's on there. Now we move to his final weapon, which is his submachine rifle. Black plastic, very soft. We have a magazine that slides into place and is fairly secure. It is blast effect compatible, and for Hasbro's blast effects. And this rifle has a little port here on the bottom of the backpack that should hold it in place. Mine is a little stretched out, so it doesn't want to actually hold that well. So mileage will vary. Again, heating it up and just moving it into place might help. So here's Torpedo all geared up. And one thing I didn't acknowledge was this other piece that attaches to his leg that has just some molded pouches. There he is. To go through Torpedo's bio, we'll start with the fact that his real name is Edward Leialoha. He was born in Aiea, Hawaii, which is on the main island of Oahu in the Hawaiian Islands. Living on an island paradise, Edward grew up to be a scuba instructor. In addition to his prowess in water-related activities, he also earned black belts in Wushu, Kempo, and Go-Ryu martial arts, in addition to proficiency in Filipino butterfly knives, all by the age of 19. Upon enlistment in the United States Navy, Torpedo went through the Basic Underwater Demolitions SEAL Training, or BUDS, in San Diego, California. After he graduated from BUDS training, that meant Torpedo was an expert in water and land-based combat, air deployment, and watercraft operation, on top of a variety of weapons and QCQ, or close quarters combat. Torpedo's naval career saw him promoted through the enlisted ranks and then becoming a warrant officer, which are highly skilled, single-track specialty officers. Because of all this, he quickly came under the radar of G.I. Joe. Torpedo was first introduced to us in the Marvel Comics issue number 13, which involved being part of Bravo team in the fictional country of Sierra Gordo. He was also in the first issue of the G.I. Joe Special Mission series in a story called That Sinking Feeling. In the Sunbow cartoon series, Torpedo was introduced in the third episode of the G.I. Joe miniseries called The Mass Device Part 3, The Worms of Death.
Heavy water, here I come! Gotcha! Come Torpedo, baby!
He was voiced by Michael Yama, and as such, Torpedo was a more vibrant and jokey type of personality in the cartoon than he was depicted on his bio card and in the Marvel Comics series. He appeared in 13 episodes of the original cartoon series and showcased in a PSA demonstrating on how to tread water.
See ya! Help me! Somebody help me! Torpedo!
Keep cool! Use your head, don't lose it! Open and close your legs like a scissor! Keep up a steady rhythm! Now cup your hands downward and move them in a figure 8 motion.
I'm treading water!
You got it! Never play around water alone.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe!
His vintage toy was released in the 1983 second wave of figures. Subsequently, this is the wave that introduced the bicep swivel in the G.I. Joe line. He came with fins, an air respirator backpack, and a harpoon gun. His original figure was discontinued in 1986, but then re-released in 1997 as part of the Night Landing SEAL landing craft set. We've seen 2 other iterations of Torpedo up until 2015, with various ranks between lieutenant and chief. So that's the bio and a quick summary of Torpedo as a character. Let's go through this classified series figure. Now that we've gone through the character bio and history, let's look at this classified figure. And this is a great homage to the vintage G.I. Joe Torpedo. The color breakup between the gray and the black for the dry suit is amazing looking. The detail on the face, this is a great representation of the Hawaiian culture and the Hawaiian people. So kudos to them. I love the inclusion. It's great. So we're going to look at the aesthetics here of him. Again, starting with the top of the face, the sculpt is really, really nice. Like I said earlier, the homage of the black and gray is really nice. We have some modern touches in regards to these packs here on his harness for his rebreather. We have a little depth gauge display on his arm. Again, just like I said, the sculpt on him is really cool. He's a very lithe figure, and by that I mean, if you take the backpack off, he's very athletic. He's definitely looking like a swimmer, at least in my opinion, where he has this strong, muscular but lean body. and that kind of goes through everything where you can see his legs are very muscled up here, as they should for being a swimmer, and he has these lower legs that are pretty much stacked as well. So that's another really cool level of detail. These leg straps that hold like his blade, his dive knife, and this little pouch here, they're nice to have, but they don't really lock into place. They keep sliding around, so that could be a minor annoyance to someone. So let's just go ahead and go right into articulation, which I kind of have some of this already started. His head, he can go up that far, which is pretty decent. He can look down really well, and again, his neck is on a double ball peg, so the bottom part of his neck moves as well as the upper part. Rotate 360 if you wanted. You could do a nice tilt, which will help in regards to like when you're putting him into like different poses again for swimming. He can really articulate the illusion of motion. As you can see, arms are up in a T pose quite easily. We have a bit of a butterfly here. We have bicep rotation, and it's actually toleranced well on both sides. We have double jointed elbows, nice range of motion. We have wrist rotation on both sides, and both trigger hands have vertical tilt. Very nice, Hasbro. Finally, you don't want to tilt in, you want to tilt up and down. This harness is a separate piece. We go down to his ab crunch. He's got a really decent ab crunch down, and a really nice back, arch back, almost to breaking his back. But again, that helps if you're, again, posing an illusion for him swimming. He does have a ball peg at the bottom of his waist here, which gives you a nice bit of rotation around and tilt. So again, more articulation options. This is a very well engineered, or figure I should say, until we get to the lower legs. So we have the drop hips. We go down. He can go up that far. He can go back before you start angling out that far. We have thigh rotation. We have a nice double jointed knee, so you can kick his rear. So the best part about this is he does have a ankle rotation, which is really nice because it mates up with his toe tilt down and his toe tilt up. So again, getting those very intricate swimming poses, you can actually get that really nice angle that would show like a fluid motion with one swimming. So that's really cool. Unfortunately, with this copy, I can only do it with one leg. This copy here, my knee joint is completely frozen. I tried putting him in hot water, I tried blow drying, and this will not move. It's all up in here. There's no rotation. So QC Monster got Mike again. But that's okay. I can still get him in a fair amount of poses. And if I want to do him underwater, that's just going to be the leg that's, you know, thrusting out. So I can do something like that, and getting him up and back in that type of pose. And the only accessory I wish he did have was some open palms to simulate stroke, you know, swim strokes. So that's the only thing I really think is missing to make this guy stellar. But aesthetically, he's really nice. Engineering wise, overall, great. I just got a bum copy, so mileage will vary for collectors who get this guy. Why don't we go ahead and do a few comparisons, and we'll get to final thoughts. And for comparisons, we're going to have him next to the Action Force mail-in Covert Ops Condor and a Marvel Legends Black Widow. And here we have Torpedo with some of his wave mates, Shipwreck, and the Arctic Bat, courtesy of T-Man 978. And final comparison, we have some figures outside of Marvel Legends and G.I. Joe Classified with the Indiana Jones Adventure Series Salah and Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Wave 2 figure Vero Atlas. So that's what I have for comparisons. Let's move to final thoughts. So final impressions of G.I. Joe Classified series Torpedo, number 73. I think this is a return to form from Wave 12 with all the QC issues that we did experience with CoverGirl and Falcon and whatnot. This does feel better, especially after handling some of Torpedo's wave mates. But unfortunately, I do have a glitch with mine in regards to an unmovable knee. So that kind of limits some of the articulation options I have for this guy. But in regards to sculpt and paint, I think this is really, really good. Again, the representation of Torpedo being Hawaiian, really well represented here with his face sculpt. So I feel his accessories, while made out of that soft pliable rubber, which makes it prone, especially for his weapons, to be bent out of the box, are appropriate, well sculpted, and sufficiently painted. So I feel like this guy is a really good representation, especially with the amount of posability I found while taking pictures of this guy swimming underwater. So I do recommend this guy. I want to thank everyone for watching, and if you can, please hit subscribe and notifications bell so you know when I have the rest of these G.I. Joe figures out for you. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.